Let's make some drink. That is a lot of rum. Halo 2, online teabagging, and schoolyard debates on who had the best home console. It was a time to be alive. I'm Mike Dangerous, and this is Talking Shots. Nintendo, Sega, Sony. The three gaming consoles lived in harmony until one day the Xbox nation attacked. It's the fifth generation of gaming consoles. The Nintendo 64, the Sony PlayStation, and the Sega Saturn. Except, not really. Sega jumped the gun with their fifth generation gaming console, and to put it lightly, f***ed it all up. But onward, said Sega, with a new CEO in place named Peter Moore. This is important for later, so I hope you're taking notes, because I'm going to quiz you on it. The PlayStation 2 was looming over the horizon and was set to be the most powerful game console, if not the most powerful home media device of all time. Well, for 2000. We still had Tamagotchis back then. There was no way the Sega Dreamcast could keep up. Sega was struggling, and unfortunately, after 2001, Sega was no longer a mainstay in the home console market. And your boy Peter Moore took it personally. Meanwhile, Microsoft was cooking up something special. Microsoft was looking to break into the home console market after seeing the success of video games in the mid-90s. Most people were consuming video games on home console instead of PC, and Bill Gates can smell the credit cards all the way from his paper stack. Microsoft announced their Xbox at their keynote on March 10th, 2000. It was based off the DirectX architecture that was used in PC gaming at the time, making games much easier to develop, hence the X in Xbox. See? It's cute. It's clever. Sega originally wanted backwards compatibility for the Dreamcast on the Xbox. Sega and Microsoft were in bed together in the late 90s. The Dreamcast had development tools that supported Windows CE, which didn't really work that well, but it was still cool. Sega instead used an architecture that was more similar to their Naomi boards that you would see in the arcade machines. Sega was also the first to popularize online gaming on home consoles with their blisteringly fast 56K modem. Do you remember a time when you couldn't use the phone at the same time as the internet? Because if you did, you would hear the phone calls through the speakers? I do. God, oh my God. While not an ideal experience, even at the time, it definitely laid the groundwork for Microsoft's Xbox Live service. Unfortunately, Dreamcast backwards compatibility never came to be. However, Sega did support the Xbox upon launch. Shenmue 2, Jet Set Radio Future, Crazy Taxi 3, and Panzer Dragoon Orta all launched on the Xbox as exclusives. But aside from Sega, the Xbox was home to many industry-changing exclusives. You already know about Halo. Halo 2 revolutionized online gaming forever. Yeah. Oh, it has LAN support? Lit. Need for Speed Underground was a game for degenerates.
I got scared. I couldn't see the road.
I'm a degenerate. A lot of people forget that the original Call of Duty was a PC exclusive at the time. So it's only fitting that Call of Duty 2 found its way to the Xbox as an exclusive. Long before clan teabags and zombies, it was a little humble World War II shooter. The Battlefield series, Counter-Strike, yeah, there's a lot of first-person shooters on the console. It's almost like it's built to play PC games or something. But the FPS box, it was not. You want to pilot a mecha? You want to pilot the Ava? Steel Battalion came with this huge fucking controller and is lit. Not cheap, but lit. The original Fable was also an Xbox exclusive. You could be good, you could be evil. That's cool. That was cool before Shadow the Hedgehog did it. Speaking of RPGs and Skyrim, Elder Scrolls 4 Morrowind also released on the original Xbox. People really sleep on Morrowind. Morrowind still holds up very well. But of course, you can't talk about RPGs on the system without talking about Knights of the Old Republic. 1 and 2. It's called KOTOR. Expanding the Star Wars lore in an interesting way. Unlike Solo. This was back before Disney retconned the whole extended universe, and back then, extended lore was something else. A lot of it found its way into video games, and for Microsoft at the time to basically have exclusive rights to a large chunk of the Star Wars extended lore was a really smart move. The Xbox definitely was a big shift for the gaming industry. It was the first US game manufacturer to release a successful console since the Atari 2600 in the 70s. I know we had the Jaguar in the 90s, but we don't talk about that. Not on this show. Not in this God-fearing household. We also don't talk about the Apple Pippin. Yeah, Apple released the video game system. Bet you didn't know that one. Has some Gundam games on it. However, there's always growing pains for first in the tech industry. First off, look at this. Look at this big old boy. This is like one of those tiny dogs that weighs more than you think it should. One of the ones that are really yappy, but they thick. Dude, you could kill somebody with this. And that's entirely because it's basically a PC in here, which brought along with it some PC innovations. Like, it had a mechanical hard drive from the factory, and that's primarily how you saved your games. A trend that would become standard in the industry. It also had like those breakaway things on the controller, so like if your dog ran across it, it wouldn't yank the console out of your entertainment system. Speaking of controllers, this is the original controller for the Xbox. They called it the Duke because it's fucking huge. For comparison, this is a modern Xbox controller. Look how much smaller this is. This is ginormous. I guess the thinking was Americans had big hands because the Japanese market got this one. And eventually we got it too because it's better. Which brings up another point. The Xbox brand still struggles in Japan to this day. It's hard enough selling a home console in your home country. Selling one abroad is a completely different story. Japanese consumers didn't want this beast of a console in their country as it was because they had already become accustomed to Sega, Nintendo, and Sony having all the recognizable IPs that they already knew and loved. It was also called the Xbox, and the Japanese don't like the letter X because it represents the bad. The Xbox brand also wasn't exactly sweeping the competition on the home stretch either. The Xbox struggled to make a dent in the PS2 sales. It did, however, outsell the GameCube. Poor buddy. It did find its way into enough people's homes to solidify the idea of online gaming on a home console. However, all the innovations of the original Xbox would lay the groundwork for the Xbox 360, which would dominate the 7th generation of home video game consoles. Today, the original Xbox is known for going toe-to-toe with two of gaming's largest icons, Nintendo and Sony, even managing to outsell one of gaming's granddaddies. Well after the system has been discontinued, it still finds a way to be useful. The Xbox is an incredibly easy system to mod. Homebrews and emulators are very popular to find for these machines, and the chances of buying a used one that's already loaded are pretty high. And going back to Sega backwards compatibility, you can even mod these things to support later Sega arcade games because the hardware is that similar. For people my age, you either grew up on an N64 or a PS1 and then graduated to one of the successors, the PS2 or the GameCube. But for a lot of people, the Xbox was their first console, and they got to grow up literally with the newcomer, and they got to see where the brand would go. For better or for worse, the Xbox cannot be ignored as the innovative little machine that it was. I say little, but it's not small, dude. Bro, if you threw the Xbox at somebody, bro, if you wanted to get revenge on somebody, you could just clock them in the head with the Xbox and they'd be done, dude. Nighty night. Me, go to bed. Without the original Xbox, who knows where online gaming would be? And seeing as Nintendo kind of sits in their own corner these days, there really would be no competition for Sony. Sony would have the market in terms of home consoles. While the battle for the original Xbox and the PS2 was legendary for us old boys, the battle that would go on between the Xbox 360 and the PS3 was probably some of the most aggressive in all of gaming history. While the Xbox One may have been a disappointment that looks like a VHS player, it kept Microsoft afloat until where we stand now today with the Xbox Series X and Series S. It seems as if now Microsoft is looking to change the way we see gaming hardware with two different variants at launch of the same console. going back to that PC hardware mentality. It's definitely an interesting road that we've come to. And to think it all started with this not so little DirectX gaming box that, quite frankly, changed gaming forever.
I ain't a winner. Pay the front line, take the don'ts. He's coming out again for a new...
So what do you think? What game console did you grow up with? Were you a PS2 kid or an Xbox kid? If you were an Xbox kid, what were some of your favorite games? Or if you had a PS2, what games on the Xbox did you envy growing up? As always, we love hearing from you, so feel free to drop a comment below or hit us up on our subreddit, where you can go and tell me I'm dumb and tell me that I'm a tryhard for wearing sunglasses inside. As always, if you like what we do, you can support us on Patreon. We got stickers, we got sweaters, we got some private streams. Not like OnlyFans, but I get a little turnt and I play video games on the internet. So if you want to see me do that and maybe play some Xbox even, hit us up on Patreon, give us a couple bucks, it supports the show, and we all have a good time. It's a fun romp. We even have a private Discord, dude, where you can come and talk about hentai. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. I'm your boy Mike Dangerous, and this is Talking Shots.
Everyone,